Episode 69, Why Radio Still Has Soul and AI Doesn't.
The AI6 Podcast with Joanne Sweeney.
Despite the hype, AI doesn't have a heart. And that's where radio shines. In this 6-minute spin-off from our Radio Days panel, where we explore why authenticity, connection, and human-led storytelling still matters more than ever in radio, you can hear from myself, James Cridland of Podnews, Glenn Mulcahy from Titanium Media, and thanks once again to Teresa Hanratty from Learning Waves and the IBI for giving us permission to use the panel discussion audio. And don't forget to tune in tomorrow for part 4, where we'll give you an insight into the great AI divide in radio. One thing you got to consider in all of this is, where does the human voice sit in with the AI generated voice? But the other side of that for radio is we are living through the productivity frontier. Everybody in radio triple jobs. And every time that you're asked to innovate, the response, the pushback that you get is, but we don't have time. This is the huge opportunity that exists. The other thing that I would say is where radio has edge is that human connection was the theme of the last 2 days. And we're never going to lose that as long as radio is around, because AI has no soul. But for 10 seconds, Martin, can we have an entertainment interlude? And this is 10 Cigarettes by Girly Girl.
Girl power, we can do anything. Girl power, buy my own wedding ring. I love being a girl, I'll do a little twirl. Always be...
Just to demonstrate what people are doing with AI, okay. It is an AI-generated girl band. That song has 4.5 million views on Spotify. And so radio has a place. They're not going to replace you guys, but if you go and have a look at their website, it says we're capturing the emotions and the culture of where girls feel they are right now. But everybody wants to make a buck in the AI age. They say we're going to have the first billion trillionaires because of AI. But productivity is where radio should start. And that should be your starting point. How can we be more efficient?
Glenn, you want to jump in?
There's one key differentiation, and I 100% agree with you. I think there are definite opportunities for efficiencies. I think what you need to do is draw a firm line between what is editorial-facing content and what is the back end that the audience never
And this is where EU AI Act comes into play, and there's a whole host of regulation and legislation that's in place to safeguard that. And although it's as sexy as GDPR, which is not at all, it is really important to have an understanding from the managing director right down to the intern of when it can and can't be used.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I actually work with the CNN Academy at the moment. They've just gone through the whole 2-year cycle of research and innovation. They have a dedicated team that have tried like 200 different applications and have now finally said, here's a suite of tools that are non-editorial facing, but the journalists are allowed to use. There's no risk of being fired. Whereas in other organizations, in the absence of that policy, you can find yourself in hot water so quickly. So as to give everyone within the radio organizations a tip, it would be a centralized innovation group doing research and development for all of you, where you can feed back and kind of do best practices, would be hugely valuable if it doesn't exist already.
Yeah, and James, I suppose that brings us to, where should a radio station in 2025 be on their AI journey? Because it is going to be a journey, and there's going to be a lot of, apps, and as you said, press releases. Everything now has, with added AI, a lot of it's going to be junk. So where should stations be, they, local stations or national stations be, in terms of assessing what's going to work for them?
Well, I think certainly a lot of it is freeing up your people to be more creative. I see AI as not replacing human beings. I see AI as enabling human beings to be more creative, to do more things that humans can do. And to, as an example, I used Google Gemini the other day. I said, from this PDF, it's almost as if I was reporting, JNLR numbers, from this PDF that I can't do anything with, please could you add up this particular column and tell me whether this column is bigger than this columm? That sort of stuff, actually AI is really well suited for. It won't always get the right answer, by the way, but it's very well suited for. That is very different than saying we can't be bothered to pay for an afternoon jock. And instead of having a human afternoon job, we're just going to type some words into an AI tool. Anybody who is doing that needs to take a long, hard look at themselves and work out what they're doing. But there are scales in this, I think. Is there something? I know that Southern Cross Austereo in Australia is using AI cloned voices of some of their talent to do a few very small little jobs like localized traffic that wouldn't exist otherwise because they can't get 40 different stations to do localized traffic, but you can from one place with a cloned voice. Do you do that? There's an American radio company that clones the voice of their breakfast show. Their breakfast show is on 70 different stations, I think, and they clone the voice of that breakfast show to read the weather during the day on those stations. Doing the weather is really easy, and it's just, here's the weather, and I'm back tomorrow morning from 6. I mean, those sorts of tools are interesting because they begin to be producing editorial content. Yeah. But on the other side, they're not necessarily replacing a human being. Perhaps they are in the travel example.
The AI6 Podcast with Joanne Sweeney.